We were talking earlier, and one of you was sharing about a situation with acceptance with the children.
Well, my son had to the principal had to call home because of a situation that happened at school. And
that's what every parent fears, isn't it? The principal calling home, or the pastor.
And yet it was so neat afterwards as we talked about it, is saying, you know, this doesn't change anything. You're just as special to me. Before this did not make any difference. And it was really neat because you could tell that he knew that we loved him regardless.
And did that help in your relationship with him?
Oh, so much. He just blossomed because he really felt that he was going to get in trouble. And yet he got a lot of affirmation from both his dad and I telling him, okay, things like this happen. Let's learn from it and go on. And he was very willing to talk about it.
It shows in spite of what the principal says, I love and accept you. My daughter Katie, who was 9 when she was 6, became quite the star in soccer, and just for one of her most important games, she came running off the field and says, Daddy, if I score a goal, will you give me $1? I said, sure. She goes, wow. I said, wait a minute. I said, if you don't score a goal, I'll give you $1. You will? Yeah. Wow. I said, wait a minute. I said, do you know why? And she turned around, and for 3 years I'd been hammering unconditional acceptance home with her, and it didn't seem like it was paying off. And all of a sudden she turned around, she looked at me, and she says, yeah, it doesn't matter if I play soccer or not, you love me anyway. I mean, dads, my daughter couldn't have said anything more joyful at that moment about how much I loved her. And then my son, who is 14 now, when he was 12, he was playing baseball, and so I took 12 coupons for ice cream sundaes down to the coach a week before the season started. And I said, now, Coach, these are for the kids. He says, good, I'll give them to them after our first win. I said, no, give them to them after your first loss. I said, why? I said, Coach, I don't know about you, but I said, in raising my kids up, I don't want to acknowledge their success as much as their effort. And I don't want to acknowledge their effort as much as their being created in the image of God. And I said, my son is created in the image of God with infinite value and dignity and worth that has nothing to do with playing baseball. If he never played baseball inning in his life, I would love and accept him just as much. And the coach looked at me and says, well, that's novel. And after the 3rd or 4th game, they lost, and he gave them all the coupons. And 3 kids in the next 2 weeks in the little town where I live came up to me, and the first fellow named Jesse came up and says, thanks a lot for the ice cream sundaes, Mr. McDowell. Wow, it doesn't matter to you if we win or not. You love us anyway. And that's what I wanted to communicate there, that it's not based upon you playing baseball. It's based upon you created in the image of God with infinite value and dignity. Now, Dick, as we build on this, the acceptance, we go into the area of value, of building the value into the child. Where does availability fit into all of this?
Let me just make one quick comment on what you said about the kids. That kind of acceptance that you're talking about, regardless of outcome, is what really frees a child up to express their own uniqueness and really to excel in what they're striving to do. Now, the whole area of value
and availability.
Availability is the expression of love. Love is what is built upon the value. I love you not because of what you've done. I love you because of who you are. But again, it comes back, that availability, first and foremost, is that expression. If Josh hadn't been at the ball game, he couldn't have done that. If he was never at the game and maybe sent out the coupons in a materialistic way and gave something of material value without giving himself, that wouldn't have meant much. But I think it was interesting. The kids knew who Josh McDowell was, who the man was that gave them the coupons for the goodies, because he was at the games.
When we look at availability, being available to our children, it's called TIME. Where does quantity versus quality come in here?
They both come in. And the moment you say one in exclusive of the other, you have forgotten the whole thing. I mean, time is available. You saw, remember the statistics in the Why Wait program that came back, that what teenagers wanted most of all was time with dad. Second of all, dialogue with dad. Third, dialogue with mom. And fourth, a happy family. And fifth, good grades. First 4 all had to do with acceptance in the area of relationships.
And being available.
And being available. So, there was time with dad, but dialogue with dad. There is your quantity, but there's also your quality.
And some people will say, well, and I struggle with this my entire life about the quality time and building those relationships. And I've learned one thing: if you have quantity, no matter how poor you are relationally, by accident, you're going to have quality. I mean, as a man, you can't even turn around to your wife and brag about it because it just happened. And we need the quantity with the quality because we're talking about modeling. And modeling takes time. Now, why does a teenager spell love T-I-M-E?
Because that says you're important. If I spend time with you, I'm saying you're important to me. But on the other hand, if I say you're important to me and never spend any time, that's double talk. And I think the key thing, though, when you said, why does a teenager say that? Because if you don't start it when they're little, it doesn't work when they're teenagers. And tragically, I've seen and heard so many dads who say, I'm going to pour myself into the job, into the work when my kids are little, so that when they're teenagers, particularly with a son, so that when they're teenagers, I can devote myself to my kids. And by that time, the kids have established their own agenda, and it's, I'm sorry, Dad, I'm busy.
I'm busy. And so everything we're talking about here, if we relate to teenagers, means you start when they're born.
Yeah, boy.
From the first day they're born, building up. Let me show you how important availability is to us as adults, and then see it in relationships to our children. Essex, let's say, I don't know what you do, but let's say you're good friends with the boss, the president of the corporation, and you want to see that boss. And you go over, say it's Thursday afternoon, and the secretary says, I'm sorry, Essex, he is totally booked up. He can't see anyone until next Tuesday. Well, would you call him? Okay, well, no, I'm sorry, Essex, he can't see you. As you walked away, how would that make you feel deep down in your gut?
Well, that's important, that's for sure. It'd make me feel like I didn't know him. He didn't know me. So consequently, I had no influence there. And
in spite of how good of a relationship you had with him to various degrees, you would feel that down inside. Now, how do you think our children feel when we're not available to them?
Well, I have to think that they feel like they're not important to them, because I just related to my growing up. The availability of my parents was very important to me. To have that availability addressed in when I come to speak with them, that they would have the time to spend with me was very important.
How'd that make you feel?
Good.
Good, I like that. Now, let's say you want to see the boss, Essex, and you go over Thursday afternoon, say to the secretary, I need to see Joe or Mr. So-and-so, and I'm sorry, he is so busy, he can't see anyone until next Tuesday. Would you call him? Yeah. Essex, he wants to see you, he'll be right out. How would that make you feel?
Make me feel awful good. Important.
That's right. What do you think it does to our children then when we're available to them?
It just gives them that it drops off chains on them, that's for sure. Lets them know that they are important. It doesn't make a difference what our parents are doing. They're going to find the time to give us.
Availability says, I am important.